Shane van Gisbergen walked into the Cup Series with 0 NASCAR laps and beat every single team on his very first try. No trucks, no Xfinity grind, no years of paying dues. One race, one win, and 60 years of NASCAR's rulebook suddenly looked broken. Team owners are still trying to explain what happened, and it keeps getting worse for them. For 60 years, NASCAR ran on one simple rule. You start small, you race trucks, you move up to Xfinity, you spend years getting beat up, learning ovals, building sponsor relationships, and proving yourself before anyone lets you near a Cup car. That path made stars. It also made owners feel safe because they knew exactly what they were paying for. Then a guy from New Zealand showed up and skipped the whole thing. Shane van Gisbergen had never raced a Cup car in his life. He had never run a single lap of Xfinity. His background was V8 supercars in Australia, a totally different style of racing on totally different tracks. In July 2023, Trackhouse Racing put him in a car for one race, the Chicago Street Course. It was his NASCAR debut, his actual first race at any level of the sport. He won, not just won. He became the first driver in 60 years to win a Cup Series race on his very first try. The last person to do that was back in 1963. Before that day, almost nobody outside racing circles knew his name. After it, every team owner in the garage had a new problem to think about. Here is why that win mattered so much. NASCAR's entire development system exists to answer one question for sponsors and owners: who deserves a seat? Drivers spend years in trucks and Xfinity proving they can handle pressure, media, and competition. That process decides who gets funded and who gets left behind. It is slow, but it is trusted. Van Gisbergen just proved that system was not the only way to build a Cup winner, and once one team saw it work, the whole garage had to ask an uncomfortable question. If a total outsider can win on lap 1, what exactly are teams paying for when they wait years for a prospect to develop? Trackhouse owner Justin Marks did not slow down after Chicago. He signed Van Gisbergen for a full Xfinity season in 2024, technically going backward in the ladder just to get him more laps. Van Gisbergen won 3 Xfinity races that year. He also proved he was an immediate threat in the Premier Series, battling down to the wire and nearly winning the Cup race at Watkins Glen. Then Trackhouse handed him a full-time Cup ride for 2025, driving car number 88, a number made famous by Dale Earnhardt Jr. That is when things really shook up. In his rookie Cup season, Van Gisbergen won 5 races. 5 wins made him the most successful rookie in Cup Series history. Not the most successful rookie in years, in the history of the entire series. A guy who had 0 NASCAR experience 2 years earlier was now outperforming drivers who had spent a decade grinding through the traditional path. The reaction inside the garage was not simple celebration. It was tension. NASCAR insiders started debating the sport's playoff rules because of him when Van Gisbergen won his way into the 2025 playoffs off a victory in Mexico City. Fans and analysts argued about whether it was fair. He had been sitting low in the season standings before that win. Critics said he did not deserve a title shot. Analysts pointed out he had simply done exactly what he was hired to do: win on the tracks he specializes in. But the argument itself proved the point. NASCAR's whole format was built around drivers who climbed the traditional ladder. Van Gisbergen did not fit that mold, and the sport's own rules started creaking under the pressure. Other teams noticed something else too. If Trackhouse could grab a road course specialist from outside the system and turn him into an instant playoff threat, why couldn't everyone else? That question changed how teams look at young talent. Consider Connor Zilisch, an 18-year-old racing for JR Motorsports. Team insiders and analysts started comparing him directly to Van Gisbergen, debating whether Zilisch even needed the full traditional grind either. Denny Hamlin, a veteran Cup driver, publicly weighed in on the comparison, saying Zilisch looked more ready for Cup than Van Gisbergen had been at the same stage. That single sentence tells you everything. Teams are now measuring new prospects against an outsider who skipped the line. Instead of measuring them against drivers who followed the rules for 10 years, sponsors care about this too, and for a simple reason. Traditional development takes years and costs serious money before a driver ever proves he can win at the top level. Van Gisbergen flipped that timeline. He won before anyone spent years developing him. For a sponsor writing checks, that is either terrifying or incredibly appealing, depending on which side of the old system you are standing on. Think about it from a team owner's side. Every seat in the Cup Series is expensive. Sponsors pay for a car because they expect wins, playoff spots, and TV time. The old system managed that risk slowly. Watch a driver for years in trucks and Xfinity, see how he handles pressure, then hand him the keys once he has proven himself. Van Gisbergen skipped almost that entire process and still delivered wins immediately. Justin Marks got a driver who could win road and street courses right away, which meant a faster shot at the playoffs and a faster return on every dollar spent. That is exactly why Marks kept pushing Van Gisbergen forward instead of waiting. Fast results changed the math for everyone watching. Zilisch is not some random comparison either. Before he ever raced a truck or Xfinity car in NASCAR, he had already won the Rolex 24 at Daytona and the 12 Hours of Sebring in a completely different type of racing. He grabbed a pole in his very first Truck Series start. He went out and won his very first career Xfinity race. Teams are watching him the same way they watched Van Gisbergen, wondering if traditional seasoning even matters anymore when raw talent shows up this early. Van Gisbergen has not slowed down since that rookie season. He kept adding wins in 2026, reaching 8 Career Cup victories by that summer, most of them on road and street courses. He is now tied for the most road course wins among every active Cup driver. Early in that rookie season, his average oval finish sat near 30th place, and he openly talked about still learning that side of the sport. They need drivers who can win races and make playoffs. Van Gisbergen himself does not act like a man trying to blow up the sport's traditions. He has said publicly that he respects every driver who put in the years to reach Cup the normal way, and that he is ready to work just as hard now that he is here. But respect for the old path does not erase what his results already proved. Whether he intended it or not, his career became the loudest argument against the idea that only one road leads to the top. That is the real chaos here. It is not that Van Gisbergen is the greatest driver ever. It is that he broke the assumption an entire industry was built on. One driver from another continent with almost no NASCAR background just showed there is another way in. And every team now has to decide whether to keep trusting the old system or start hunting for the next outsider who might walk in and do it again. The garage has not figured out the answer yet, but the search has already started.